Ever wondered how those perfectly stacked saddle-shaped chips known as Pringles are made? It's not magic. It's a fascinating process that involves some serious science, a bit of wizardry, and a dash of engineering genius. Today, we're peeling back the lid on how Pringles are made in the factory. So grab a can, sit back, and get ready to discover the crunchy secrets behind your favorite snack. Spoiler alert, it's way more complicated than just slicing up potatoes. The journey of a Pringle starts in an unexpected place. Not in a potato field, but in a high-tech mixing room. Unlike regular potato chips that are sliced from whole potatoes, Pringles are made from a specially crafted dough. Yes, you heard that right. Pringles are more like baked goods than chips. The dough is a mix of dehydrated potato flakes, cornstarch, wheat starch, and a bit of flour. Think of it as a potato chip's cooler, more sophisticated cousin. The ingredients are mixed together in industrial blenders that are roughly the size of a small car. These bad boys whip up a dough that's smooth, pliable, and just the right consistency. Not too sticky, not too dry. Imagine trying to make a potato chip pancake. Yeah, it's kind of like that. The dough needs to be strong enough to hold its shape, but flexible enough to be molded into that iconic Pringles curve. Once the dough is mixed to perfection, it's time to roll it out. Picture a giant rolling pin on steroids, flattening the dough to just the right thickness, about 0.8 of a millimeter, which is thinner than a penny. This precise thickness is key to achieving that light, crisp texture that makes Pringles so ridiculously addictive. You know that feeling when you can't stop at just one? Blame the perfect thickness. But here's where things get really interesting. The dough isn't just flattened out and left to its own devices. No way. It's carefully cut into individual pieces using a machine that stamps out those familiar oval shapes. And get this, these shapes are scientifically designed to be identical. That's why every Pringle looks exactly the same. It's like they're cloned from the same potato chip factory laboratory. Cue the sci-fi music. Now, let's talk about the curve. The cut dough pieces are sent through a process called molding, where they're pressed onto a saddle-shaped mold that gives Pringles their signature curve. And this curve isn't just for looks, it's got a purpose. It's engineered for stacking, which means you can fit an entire can's worth of chips without any crumbling chaos. The curve also ensures that the chips cook evenly, so you get that perfect crunch every time. Once the chips are molded into their perfect little saddles, it's off to the fryer. But we're not talking about your grandma's deep fryer here. Oh no. Pringles are cooked in a special conveyor belt fryer that's more like a potato chip car wash. The chips travel through the fryer for just a few seconds at around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or 175 degrees Celsius if you're fancy. This quick, consistent cooking process ensures that every chip is perfectly crispy without being too greasy. Say goodbye to oily fingers. After frying, the chips need to cool down, because who likes hot, soggy chips? As they cool, excess oil is removed, leaving behind that light, airy texture that Pringles are known for. And let's face it, the last thing you want is to open a can of chips and find they've turned into an oil sponge. Now, let's get to the part that makes your taste buds do a happy dance, the flavoring. While the chips are still warm, they're sprayed with a fine mist of seasoning. Whether it's the classic original, tangy sour cream and onion, or mouth-burning spicy BBQ, the seasoning is carefully applied to ensure even coverage. This step is like the grand finale of a fireworks show. It's what makes each Pringle burst with flavor. Factories use precise machines to sprinkle just the right amount of seasoning onto each chip, so every bite is just as good as the last. It's like the chips are getting a flavor spa treatment. Once the chips are perfectly seasoned, they're ready for their grand entrance into that iconic Pringles can. But stacking these chips isn't just a matter of tossing them in willy-nilly. Oh no, this is where precision and engineering really shine. The chips are carefully stacked in their signature uniform shape and placed into the can, like a delicious potato chip Jenga tower. The stacking process is so precise that it's designed to ensure the chips stay intact during shipping. Because let's be honest, nothing ruins snack time faster than a can of broken chips. Speaking of the can, let's take a moment to appreciate this marvel of snack engineering. The Pringles can was invented back in the 1960s, and it's still a stroke of genius today. The cylindrical shape protects the chips from being crushed, while the foil lining keeps them fresh. It's the snack world's answer to Fort Knox. Plus, that pop you hear when you open a new can. That's the sound of freshness being unleashed. After the cans are filled, they're sealed with an airtight foil cover and topped with that familiar plastic lid. The can is then labeled, boxed up, and sent off to stores around the world. But before they leave the factory, there's one final step: quality control. You didn't think they'd just send these chips out without a final check, did you? Random samples of the chips are taken from each batch and tested to ensure they meet Pringles' high standards. This includes checking for flavor, texture, and even the strength of the can. After all, no one wants to open a can of chips and find it's been squashed like a pancake. Now here's a fun fact: the Pringles can is more than just a fancy container, it's a cultural icon. People use Pringles cans for all sorts of creative projects, from DIY speakers to storage containers. And let's not forget the famous duck lips game. Who hasn't held two Pringles in their mouth to mimic a duckbill at some point? It's a rite of passage. And here's something even more interesting. Pringles aren't technically classified as potato chips. Because they're made from a dough rather than sliced potatoes, they're actually considered a potato crisp or restructured potato product in some countries. But whatever you call them, there's no denying that Pringles are one of the most recognizable and beloved snacks around the globe. But let's circle back to the factory process, because there's one more thing we need to talk about: the seasoning magic. Did you know that Pringles flavor scientists, yes, that's a real job, spend countless hours perfecting each seasoning blend? They experiment with different combinations of spices, herbs, and even umami enhancers to create the perfect taste profile. Whether it's the savory kick of BBQ or the zesty punch of cheddar cheese, each flavor is a masterpiece in its own right. The flavoring process is so precise that it's done with high-tech machines that can adjust the amount of seasoning down to the microgram. This ensures that every single Pringle in the can has that consistent, delicious flavor you know and love. It's kind of like having your chips blessed by a flavor wizard. And let's not forget about those special edition Pringles flavors that pop up every now and then. From wasabi and soy sauce to Pickle Rick, the Pringles team isn't afraid to get creative. These limited-time flavors are often inspired by global cuisines, seasonal trends, or even pop culture. It's a reminder that while Pringles may be a classic snack, they're always up for a little experimentation. So, the next time you pop open a can of Pringles and hear that satisfying pop, you'll know just how much work went into making that perfect stack of chips. From the carefully crafted dough to the precision frying and seasoning, every step in the process is designed to create a snack that's as delicious as it is unique. And there you have it, that's how Pringles are made in the factory. The next time you're enjoying that perfectly curved, crispy chip, remember all the hard work, science, and a little bit of snack magic that went into making it. Now go ahead, pop the top, grab a stack, and enjoy the crunch. Just be careful, because once you pop, you know you can't stop.